good reason to believe that one day you will work with them? Or is it kind of in the realm of fantasy?
Some of actors, so you could get cheap new actors like me, and
thank God I did. That was a honey bunch to hold.
In 1959, a young Angie Dickinson starred in Rio Bravo, a film that would launch her into Hollywood stardom alongside legends like John Wayne and Dean Martin. Yet more than 6 decades later, she still refuses to watch it. Why? Beneath the glamour and success lies a hidden story of self-doubt, emotional scars, and a heartbreaking connection to a co-star who left this world far too soon.
They were, by not being against me, they were for me.
All right. Didn't you,
be with our little microphones hidden all the time, but hated that. That's maybe the worst part of it.
This isn't just about a movie, it's about the memories it holds and the pain it still carries. Angie Dickinson's story begins far from the flashing cameras and red carpets of Hollywood, in the quiet town of Culm, North Dakota. Born Angeline Brown on September 30th, 1931, she was the second of 4 daughters in a humble, working-class family. Her father, Leo Henry Brown, ran a small-town newspaper, instilling in Angie a love of words, discipline, and quiet observation. Her mother, Frederica, nurtured her daughters with warmth and resilience, especially during the challenging years of the Great Depression. When Angie was 10, the Browns made a pivotal move to Burbank, California, in search of greater opportunity, a decision that would unknowingly place young Angie at the heart of the entertainment world.
There's a lot of, it's like picking a donut. It's tough to pick a donut.
I had to do a screen test, but Howard was a very deliberate man.
You heard that joke about remind me not to send you out for a cheese sandwich. You
Oh,
don't know
yeah.
that.
At first, nothing about her path pointed toward fame. She was bookish, introspective, and academically inclined. She graduated from Bellarmine Jefferson High School, then attended Glendale Community College before transferring to Immaculate Heart College, where she earned a business degree. Her early ambitions were grounded in writing and journalism, fields that felt both respectable and creatively fulfilling. She admired her father's role as a communicator, a storyteller, and imagined herself following a similar path. But life had other ideas. In 1953, almost on a dare, Angie entered a local beauty pageant. She hadn't trained, hadn't rehearsed, and didn't expect to win. Yet she quickly stood out, poised, charismatic, strikingly beautiful. She became a finalist in the Miss America preliminary competition, and though she didn't take the crown, she caught the eye of casting directors who saw something rare in her, a quiet magnetism that lit up the screen. What started as a spontaneous lark would set her on the road to a destiny she hadn't planned, one that would eventually make her a defining face of Hollywood's golden age.
And I've always been that way, but I think it was probably because my mother worked. And I subconsciously, Frank Sinatra and Jimmy Durante rehearsing a song. It was the Colgate Comedy Hour, which was on.
Is it a hope? I mean, now you're in a
Oh,
position,
sure.
being at the top rank, that you would be able, I mean, it's not just a fantasy, there's every.
Angie Dickinson's entry into the world of entertainment wasn't an overnight transformation. It was a slow burn, marked by small steps and quiet determination. After the beauty pageant brought her unexpected attention, she began landing minor roles on television throughout the early 1950s. Her early performances were modest, bit parts and guest appearances that barely scratched the surface of her potential. But casting directors and producers began to take note. There was something captivating about her presence on screen. She had a natural elegance, a low, sultry voice, and a gaze that could hold an audience without uttering a word.
In the realm of fantasy, I just know I won't be working with some of them, but
In 1954, she made her film debut in Lucky Me, a Warner Brothers musical comedy, which opened the door to a series of roles in westerns, then one of the most popular genres in American cinema. Angie quickly found her niche playing women who defied the typical damsel-in-distress mold. She brought strength, wit, and independence to characters that were often expected to be passive or ornamental. Her performances didn't scream for attention, they invited it. She played opposite rugged male leads and managed to hold her own with subtlety and intelligence. Slowly but surely, she was building a reputation not just as a beautiful face, but as a serious actress with quiet power. Though Hollywood was still a man's world, Angie Dickinson was beginning to make her mark, not by shouting over it, but by mastering the space she was given and making it unforgettable. In 1959, everything changed. Angie Dickinson was cast in what would become one of the most iconic westerns in Hollywood history, Rio Bravo. Directed by the legendary Howard Hawks, the film starred John Wayne and Dean Martin, two of the biggest names in the industry. For Angie, still a rising actress with only a handful of supporting roles behind her, this was the opportunity of a lifetime. She was cast as Feathers, a witty, flirtatious, and fiercely independent gambler who slowly forms a romantic bond with Wayne's stoic sheriff. It was a role that demanded presence, subtlety, and confidence, and Angie delivered, even if she didn't feel it at the time. Standing beside screen giants, Dickinson later confessed she often felt out of her depth. She was new, unseasoned, and filled with insecurities about whether she truly belonged on such a towering cinematic stage. And yet, when the cameras rolled, her performance sparkled with a delicate balance of sensuality and intelligence. The critics took notice. Audiences did too. Rio Bravo was a hit, cementing Angie's status as more than just a pretty face. It made her a star. But behind the scenes, the experience left her with complex emotions. Even decades later, she would say she could never bring herself to watch the film. To most, it was a masterpiece. To Angie, it was a mirror of self-doubt, growing pains, and the overwhelming weight of being young, vulnerable, and suddenly very visible in a world that rarely offered second chances. Rio Bravo may have launched her, but it also left an emotional scar she carried with quiet grace for the rest of her life. While Rio Bravo marked Angie Dickinson's breakthrough, it also left her with a deeply personal wound, one tied to a quiet friendship formed on set with a young man who, like her, was navigating sudden stardom. Ricky Nelson was just 18 when he took on the role of Colorado Ryan, the sharp-shooting, soft-spoken gunslinger who rounded out the film's trio of heroes. A teen idol thanks to his music career and his role on the beloved sitcom The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, Nelson brought a quiet magnetism to the screen. Angie, nearly a decade older, bonded with him quickly. Their connection wasn't scandalous or romantic. It was something more delicate. They were two people, vastly different in life experience, yet united in the pressure of performing alongside legends and living up to expectations. Angie would later speak of Ricky with unmistakable tenderness, recalling his gentle soul, his understated charm, and his deep kindness. They shared laughs, nerves, and small moments in between takes, moments that left a lasting imprint. When Ricky Nelson died tragically in a plane crash in 1985 at the age of 45, it shook Angie to her core. Watching Rio Bravo would mean seeing him again, forever young, frozen in time, full of promise. It would mean revisiting the face of a friend whose life ended far too soon. The pain of that loss runs deep, and for Angie, the film became more than a symbol of her own insecurities. It became a time capsule of joy and grief intertwined. That's why she's never gone back to it. To watch Rio Bravo would be to reopen a chapter of her life filled with innocence, ambition, and a quiet sorrow she's carried ever since.
So that's why I didn't want to do it. It was because I had a life outside of movies, and when you do
Words.
As the 1970s began, Angie Dickinson was no longer just a rising star. She had become a Hollywood fixture, but it was television, not film, that would bring her the role that would redefine not only her career, but the way women were seen on screen. In 1974, she took on the groundbreaking role of Sergeant Suzanne Pepper Anderson in the NBC crime drama Police Woman. At a time when female leads in law enforcement were virtually non-existent, Angie's portrayal was revolutionary. Pepper Anderson was sharp, brave, compassionate, and in control, an empowered woman in a man's world, and audiences embraced her immediately. The show became a hit, running for 4 seasons and earning Dickinson a Golden Globe Award, along with multiple Emmy nominations. More importantly, Police Woman inspired a generation of women. Real-life police departments saw a surge in female recruits who cited Angie's character as their motivation. But what made the role truly iconic wasn't just the uniform or the gun. It was Angie's ability to bring humanity to the badge. She didn't play Pepper as a caricature of toughness, but as a multi-dimensional woman. Strong, yet vulnerable, commanding, yet deeply empathetic. It was a performance that proved a woman could not only lead a primetime drama, she could own it. With Police Woman, Angie Dickinson shattered stereotypes and opened the door for every female-led crime series that followed. It was more than entertainment. It was cultural change, delivered week after week through the quiet power of a woman who had once doubted her place in Hollywood. While the world knew Angie Dickinson as a glamorous actress, those closest to her saw a different side, one shaped by deep curiosity, intellect, and a desire to engage with the world beyond Hollywood. Her circle extended far outside the film industry, most notably through her friendship with renowned economist and diplomat John Kenneth Galbraith and his wife Catherine. This unexpected connection offered Angie a doorway into the worlds of academia, international politics, and diplomacy. She wasn't content to simply attend parties or appear on red carpets. She listened, she asked questions, and she absorbed everything. During the early 1960s, Dickinson even traveled with the Galbraiths, while John served as the U.S. ambassador to India under President Kennedy. These visits left a lasting impression on her. She explored new cultures, participated in diplomatic events, and found herself immersed in environments where wit, knowledge, and insight mattered more than celebrity. In Galbraith's memoirs, she isn't merely referenced as a movie star. She's remembered as a thoughtful, engaged guest with a genuine interest in the complexities of the world around her. These experiences revealed a dimension of Angie that the public rarely saw, one that craved meaning, substance, and understanding in a profession that so often prioritized surface over depth. In a world that tried to typecast her, Angie Dickinson quietly defied expectations, not just on screen, but in the life she built beyond it. Amidst the highs of her career, Angie Dickinson's personal life unfolded in ways both dazzling and deeply human. In 1965, she married celebrated composer and songwriter Burt Bacharach, one of the most influential figures in American music. Their union was the embodiment of 1960s glamour, a Hollywood starlet and a musical genius, regularly featured in the glossy pages of Life, People, and Time. But beneath the sparkle, their marriage carried a quiet complexity. In 1966, Angie gave birth to their only child, a daughter named Leah Nikki Bacharach. From an early age, Nikki exhibited behaviors that would eventually be understood as signs of autism, though at the time, awareness and resources for the condition were limited. Angie and Burt faced an uphill battle as parents, navigating a maze of emotional, medical, and societal challenges. While Burt continued his career in the spotlight, Angie made a profound choice. She stepped back from professional opportunities to focus on her daughter's care. Nikki's life was marked by struggle, and Angie became her fiercest protector, fighting for her well-being, dignity, and peace. The strain would eventually take a toll on the marriage. Though they remained married for 16 years, the couple spent extended periods apart and ultimately separated. Yet despite the heartbreak, Angie never let go of her commitment to Nikki. Tragically, in 2007, Nikki took her own life at the age of 40. It was a loss that would forever reshape Angie's world. In interviews, she has described it as the deepest pain of her life, one she would never fully recover from. Behind the elegance, behind the fame, there was a mother carrying the weight of grief with extraordinary grace. After the heartbreak of her daughter's struggles and the quiet dissolution of her marriage to Burt Bacharach, Angie Dickinson entered a new phase of her life, one marked by resilience, renewal, and surprising connections. In the 1980s, she found unexpected companionship in singer-songwriter Billy Vera, best known for his soulful ballad At This Moment. Their relationship was lighthearted, creatively charged, and refreshingly different from the more public, pressure-filled romances of her past. Angie even appeared in the music video for his 1981 song I Can Take Care of Myself, embracing a confident, contemporary image that reminded the world of her enduring charm. Though their time together was brief, it signaled a re-engagement with the entertainment world on her own terms, fun, spontaneous, and free from the demands of Hollywood tradition. Later, in the 1990s, Angie's personal life once again drew public interest when she entered a high-profile relationship with legendary broadcaster Larry King. Known for his gravelly voice and iconic CNN talk show, King was a master of conversation and curiosity, qualities Angie appreciated deeply. They were often seen together at events, and while their romance didn't lead to marriage, it was marked by mutual respect and a shared love of intellect and wit. King spoke glowingly of Angie's intelligence and grace, and she admired his journalistic mind. Even after they parted ways romantically, the two remained on good terms. In these later relationships, Angie found something different, not just love, but connection rooted in shared values and understanding. No longer the ingenue trying to prove herself, she had become a woman of depth, wisdom, and quiet strength, attracting those who saw and respected her for exactly who she was. Despite its critical acclaim and lasting legacy, Rio Bravo remains a film Angie Dickinson cannot bear to watch, a paradox that has puzzled fans for decades. To most, it's a cinematic treasure, a cornerstone of the Western genre, and the film that catapulted her into Hollywood stardom. But for Angie, Rio Bravo is more than just a movie. It's a deeply personal time capsule filled with memories she's chosen to keep sealed. Part of her reluctance stems from a harsh self-assessment. She has often admitted to feeling insecure during filming, uncertain whether her performance held up beside towering figures like John Wayne and Dean Martin. She was still finding her voice, and the weight of the moment, her first major role, left her questioning if she was truly ready. But the emotional weight of the film goes beyond professional self-doubt. It's also irrevocably tied to her memories of Ricky Nelson, the young, charismatic co-star whose tragic death in 1985 remains a source of quiet sorrow. Watching the film would mean seeing him alive again, so full of promise, humor, and innocence, frozen forever in a moment Angie cannot revisit without pain. It would mean confronting not only his ghost, but her own youth, her uncertainty, and the emotional whirlwind of that time. Rio Bravo is more than just celluloid. It is a reminder of love, loss, vulnerability, and a chapter of her life she has chosen to protect by never reopening. For the world, it's a classic. For Angie, it's a locked room of memory she keeps untouched, out of reverence for herself, for Ricky, and for everything they shared and endured in silence. After decades of silence, Angie Dickinson finally opened up about the truth behind her connection to Ricky Nelson, a truth she had guarded fiercely for most of her life. At 93 years old, with the clarity and courage that only time can bring, she chose to speak, not for headlines, but for healing. For years, rumors had swirled about the nature of their relationship, but Angie had remained silent, protecting not only her privacy, but Ricky's memory. When she finally broke that silence, what emerged wasn't scandal, but sincerity. She spoke of Ricky with reverence, of his magnetic charm, his gentle soul, and the unspoken bond they shared during that brief but intense time on the set of Rio Bravo. Their connection, forged in the crucible of fame and youth, was tender, complicated, and deeply human. Angie recalled the loneliness that often lurked behind Ricky's fame, the emotional isolation that so many young stars endured, endure, and how their friendship had been a quiet refuge in the storm. She reflected on the pressures they both faced, the misunderstandings that followed them, and the respect that endured long after the cameras stopped rolling. By finally sharing her story, Angie didn't just pay tribute to Ricky Nelson. She reclaimed a part of herself that had long been hidden. In doing so, she reminded the world that behind every Hollywood legend is a human story, full of complexity, fragility, and depth. It was never just about a movie. It was about youth, heartbreak, survival, and a love that needed no label to be real. Angie Dickinson's life is more than a timeline of iconic roles and famous names. It's a portrait of strength, vulnerability, and enduring grace. From a small-town girl with dreams of writing to a Hollywood pioneer who redefined what a woman could be on screen, her journey was never linear and never simple. Behind the fame was a woman who carried quiet insecurities, deep personal loss, and profound love. Her refusal to watch Rio Bravo is not a rejection of her past. It's a tender act of self-preservation. That film, for so many a timeless Western, is for her a sealed memory box, filled with the weight of first success, the ache of doubt, and the ghost of a kind young man who left the world far too early. In finally breaking her silence, Angie hasn't just shared her story. She's given voice to the private pain so often hidden behind public lives. Her legacy isn't just found in film reels or awards. It's in the courage to reflect, to feel deeply, and to remain human in a world that too often asks stars to be something else. And in the end, that's what makes Angie Dickinson unforgettable. Not the roles she played, but the truth she carried and the grace with which she finally let it be seen.